This Excel demonstration is on measures of variation. So we want to talk about variance, standard deviation, and the range. So the data that we're using is the data from basics number 2 again. Store A, store B, 30 pieces of randomly selected data, 30 random items that we collected the price on at these two different stores. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to calculate the variance. So I'm going up here to my functions. I'm typing in variance, clicking go, and I have two choices. I have variance for the population and variance for the sample. So these were 30 randomly selected items. They were a sample out of all of the items at the store. So I want to pick vars.s. Then I'm highlighting the items, item 1 to item 30. Okay. Then we'll do the standard deviation. So the standard deviation, we'll go up here. We'll say standard deviation. And it says standard deviation for the population, and then standard deviation without anything. So here's standard deviation. Here's standard deviation on a sample. So we'll use standard deviation sample. We'll pick OK. We can use this beginning one, the standard deviation, so it estimates the standard deviation based on a sample. So we can use this one, or this one specifically has the .s at the end. So to be consistent with the textbook, we'll use the STDEV. Again, we'll highlight our prices for item number 1 all the way to item 30. Okay. Then the last thing is the range. And the range is the maximum minus the minimum. So we're going to come here and we're going to pick maximum . Okay, minus the minimum. And we'll do exactly the same thing. We'll come up here and we'll pick 1 to 30. So notice what's up here in this formula bar, maximum B3 to B32 minus the minimum B3 to B32. So I'm just stacking those two functions on top of one another with the subtraction sign in between. So the maximum minus the minimum, and we'll say OK. And so the range is 9. So the range in this one's case is 9 for our data. So $10.99 all the way to the $1.99. So $9 is the range of the data. So let's talk about the range. Let's talk about the standard deviation, and just as a sanity check, remember the standard deviation, is the square root of the variance. The variance is the standard deviation squared. So if I take this, so like I said, just to double check my work, I'm going to take this number and I'm going to multiply it by that number, same as squaring it, right? So I can do that and I get 4.20809194. And the variance was indeed 4.20208. With the rounding again, our data has 2 decimal places. These 2 are calculations, and so we've got our calculations with the variance. We're going to take this and I'm going to make sure that they both have the same values as far as the number of decimal places. So 2.051 with the range being the $5. Now let's do our store B. So our store B as far as the variance is concerned. So we'll go through, we'll pick the function button. Now when we come here, we see that it's under our most frequently used, so the var.s for the sample variance. And we'll highlight our data value. So we're going to go from here all the way down to number 30. Okay. Then for the standard deviation, I'm going into the functions. I'm picking standard deviation, so that's the standard deviation for the sample. And then again, we're picking our 30 pieces of data, starting with number 1. I'm highlighting all the way down here to number 30. Okay. The range. So the range is going to be the max minus the min. So we'll do max. Minus the min. Go back and pick the function, pick the minimum. Okay. Highlight the first one all the way down to the 30th item. Okay. $12.20. So let's check. So let's fix our rounding first. So 2.6, so I'll come over here and we'll increase to 3 decimal places. And now let's check, just like we did before, let's double check our value. And so let's take the standard deviation and let's square it. So this time, just to try the squaring function, I'm going to use the caret key and I'm going to square 6.966337471. So our numbers look good as far as the values are concerned, the variance, the standard deviation, and the range. So those were our 3 different measures of variation: variance, standard deviation, and the range. Remember, this was sample data. If it was population data, we'd have to use var.p and standard deviation.p. STDEV.p. So we have to use the 2 different ones depending on whether we're doing population or sample. The range isn't going to make any difference because it's truly just the maximum minus the minimum. Okay.